Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to XDefiant. One of my final XDefiant videos here in the channel, unfortunately, because the game is being shut down. This news came out literally 10 minutes ago. XDefiant is done. They are sunsetting the game. It's going to get one more update where they add all the Season 3 content, and then on June 3rd, it's going to shut down forever. Mark Rubin took to Twitter to let us know about this. Hello, XDefiant fans. I am unfortunately here today to announce that XDefiant will be shutting down. Starting today, December 3rd, 2024, new downloads and player registrations will no longer be available. We will still release our Season 3 content in the near future, exact date to be determined, and the servers will remain active until June 3rd, 2025. For those who purchase the Ultimate Founders Pack, you'll receive a full refund. Players who made any purchases within the last 30 days will also be fully refunded. Those refunds should happen automatically within 8 days of today, and you can find more details on our official website, XDefiant.com. Wow, I can't believe I'm actually reading this. Like, I knew XDefiant wasn't doing well. It hasn't been doing well for a long time with the launch of Black Ops 6. A lot of people were focused on that, but I eventually planned on going back to XDefiant after more updates came out. The biggest thing for me when it came to that game was it was built on such amazing ideals, and unfortunately those ideals did not succeed, which is really bad, I think, for the games industry. I think we lost a great competitor in the shooter market because their entire mantra was no skill-based matchmaking, it was free to play, fast-paced arcade gameplay with transparent communication and open dialogue between the developers and the community. The foundation of XDefiant was incredible, but as we all know, the real problems with the game stemmed from the fact that there was nothing really to do in the game. It was too bare bones despite the fact that it was delayed and delayed and delayed. We needed some form of progression within XDefiant. We had no prestige mode, there were no challenges, there were no real rewards. There's a battle pass that you could get every season, but other than that, there was nothing really to grind for in the game. I don't think you can survive at this day and age on good gameplay alone. There needs to be robust progression paths and things for players to look forward to, and they started to add those mastery camos, but they were so grindy. Even someone like me who played the game more than most, I'm in the top 5% in the world for pretty much everything with the XDefiant. I played the game more than most. Even for me, it's just like there's not enough to do here, and these camo grinds are just painfully long. They take absolutely forever, and it just was not fun using one gun over and over and over. It didn't matter how well I did, it still just took forever, and there's no other form of progression in the game. And not to compare the game too much to COD, but look at what's happening with Black Ops 6. Despite skill-based matchmaking, despite the terrible servers, despite the randomness of the XP that changes based on your game mode and the map, people are still playing the game a ton because of the Dark Matter camo grind. Not because it takes forever, but because it's actually pretty engaging. The same is true of the Nebula camo grind and the whatever the name of the camo is in Warzone. People love grinding that stuff. On top of that, you have the battle pass. On top of that, you have prestige mode. You have all the different prestige rewards. And it's not fair to compare XDefiant to COD because XDefiant was a free-to-play game that was made by a much smaller team and everything, and Call of Duty's been out for 20 years, but the point still stands. There's a lot to grind for in COD, and I think that's why people play it more so than just for the gameplay. I think people like the actual progression that the game has, and that's an area where XDefiant really lacked. Going back to Mark Rubin's post here, a few years ago, Ubisoft and the San Francisco dev team embarked on a bold adventure to develop a new arcade shooter called XDefiant. It was from the start an incredible challenge. Not only were we trying to shake up the genre by removing skill-based matchmaking while bringing back a more old-school arcade shooter experience, but we were also diving into the high-risk, high-reward realm of free-to-play. And for that, I want to applaud not only the dev team, but also Ubisoft leadership for taking that chance. Free-to-play in particular is a long journey. Many free-to-play games take a long time to find their footing and become profitable. It's a long journey that Ubisoft and the teams working on the game were prepared to make until very recently. But unfortunately, the journey became too much to sensibly continue. I am, of course, heartbroken to have to be writing this post. Yes, this was a game that has been a personal passion for me for years, and yes, I know that not all challenges lead to victory, but I also want to recognize all of the developers who have been affected by this closure. Each and every one of them is a real person with a real life separate from our own, and they have all put so much of their own passion into making this game, and I hope that they can be proud of what they did achieve. I know I will always be proud and grateful to have worked with such a great team, a team that really punched above its weight class, and what they did achieve was truly remarkable. The early response from players when XDefiant launched was amazing. We broke internal records for the fastest game to surpass 5 million users, and in the end had over 15 million players play our game. That is something to be extremely proud of, especially considering how tough this genre is, so thank you to all the developers who put their passion into making this game. If there's one thing I hope we can take away from this experience, it's the importance of open, honest communication between developers and players. This player-first mentality, along with respectful, non-toxic conversations between developers and players, has been one of the standout differences that made XDefiant so special. From my very first post about XDefiant, this was the vision I wanted to champion, and I hope it leaves a positive mark on how the games industry treats its players and communities. To our players, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to express my deepest gratitude for the incredible community that has grown around XDefiant. Your passion, creativity, and dedication have inspired us every step of the way. With the utmost love and respect, Mark Rubin, man. Ladies and gentlemen, the guy who tried to go against every other game out there and build something with no skill-based matchmaking, something that would take us back to the old school days of the shooter genre where things were just about your own gun skill and working with your team, no manipulation in the background or anything like that, just fast-paced gameplay on beautiful maps with open and honest communication from the development team. It was such a great premise, it really was, and to this day, XDefiant is still incredibly fun to play. It's one of those games I think we're really gonna miss, and in retrospect, people are gonna look back years from now and wish that the game actually stuck around longer because of all the positive things that it stood for. Mark did say in that post right there that they had 15 million total players play their game, which is pretty crazy considering the size and the scope of XDefiant, but I think it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. They had a crazy launch. They broke all sorts of internal Ubisoft records for the amount of people playing the game at launch. Like, the game had every opportunity in the world to be successful, right? They had so many people jump on it right away, but ultimately I think it comes down to the lack of progression in the game. The gameplay itself was fantastic. Now, I remember so many people not liking the game when it first came out, and a lot of it really just came down to a skill issue, which was like the craziest part about it. Like, you can say what you want about the different character abilities and whatnot and the factions. That's one thing. But I'll tell you guys what, there's very few people out there that are going 40-5, 40-10 every single match and saying, oh man, this game's terrible, you know? When people hopped on XDefiant, it was a crazy situation because so many of them were so conditioned by other games out there, including the Call of Duty franchise, and people were exposed pretty quickly for the actual kind of FPS player that they were. If you did not do well in XDefiant, it's because you just weren't good at the game, which is one of those things I love so much about it. A game with no skill-based matchmaking and very little aim assist. If you're not doing good, it's because you're not that good of a player. You know, it exposed a lot of people, and I think it hurt a lot of egos, to be honest, and that worries me because the Call of Duty franchise obviously is so hell-bent on skill-based matchmaking, and everybody is just basically stuck in their own skill bracket, and when we have a game come out that's kind of a competitor to COD, but not really, it's like in a different genre almost. I mean, it's a shooter game, but it's a hero shooter essentially. When you have a game like that come out and it doesn't succeed, it kind of furthers this narrative that skill-based matchmaking is good for the player base, which is something I so firmly believe is not the case. I think skill-based matchmaking is one of the worst plagues in gaming history. Like, supply drops, loot boxes, that shit was awesome compared to skill-based matchmaking. You know, this is like by far the worst thing to happen to the Call of Duty franchise, so to see XDefiant fail is a bit disheartening for me. I was hoping this would be the kind of game that, you know, I never thought it'd blow up or anything. It was never going to be the Cod Killer. I don't know where this whole idea of a mantra for the Cod Killer would be. I suppose it comes down to this, and it's a little inside baseball here, but YouTube, that's what it comes down to. If you're a Call of Duty YouTuber and you want to talk about a different game, you always have to somehow tie it to COD for your Call of Duty audience. That's why when most people would make XDefiant videos, it was like, the Cod Killer? Is this game better than COD? Like, you couldn't hear XDefiant without Call of Duty being in the same sentence, essentially, which I think is where people got this idea that they thought XDefiant was supposed to be the Cod Killer. It's a free-to-play hero shooter by Ubisoft. It was never meant to be the Cod Killer. You know, it's just going to be another side game, another alternative, and I had hoped that this game would be around for years and years, and we can watch the evolution of it and have it be one of those games where when you really invested yourself into it in the early stages of the game's life cycle, that you would be heavily rewarded for that later on in the game's life cycle. Picture something like Fortnite, for example. You know, some of the stuff that you had from like the OG Season 1 and Season 2, some of the skins you got back then and some of the things you were able to experience back then are some of the most heralded and coveted items within Fortnite now. You know, if you were around for like the OG days and you're still playing today, like if somebody sees one of those original skins popping up in their lobbies, you know, you stand out. It's really cool, you know, and I was hoping that XDefiant would end up being one of those games where, you know, 2 years from now, we're still playing XDefiant. We have all these maps, we have all these guns, all these progression paths, all these different things to go for and things to do, and it all mattered. It's similar to how we had carry forward here in the COD franchise, you know. That's one of the things I don't like about the current setup of COD is, you know, at the end of Black Ops 6, if there is no carryover, then dark matter just goes away. I mean, you can always go back and play, but when you play the new game, everything you did previously doesn't count anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. XDefiant was setting itself up to be a game where the things you do now matter 3 years from now, you know, and I liked that idea. And I like the core gameplay as well. The core gameplay is some of the best I've ever played when it comes to an online shooter. It was always fun. It was always enjoyable, but ultimately there was just not enough to keep people playing long term. And while there are certain people out there who have been playing quite a bit and really grinding the game and everything, there just wasn't enough wide range appeal to keep the lights on for the XDefiant team. I personally talked to a lot of the people that worked on this game, and they're wonderful people. They really are. And it has to be horrible to have this project that you've been working on for years and years and years being shut down. Now you're gonna be moved on to a different project or maybe a different studio. Like, it's a real time of uncertainty for the people that worked so hard on this game. And here we are in December, like Christmas is coming around and these people are losing their jobs. Like, that's freaking terrible. That's horrible. And I hope that they can get invested into a new project and land on their feet and be passionate about something else and put all their amazing skills into a new game, into a new project, and continue creating, because what we saw in XDefiant was fantastic. It just fell short in certain categories, and I think it was a big learning experience for a lot of the people that worked on the game. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for this video here today. Kind of a somber one overall, but yeah, XDefiant is shutting down, and I know a lot of you guys actually found me through XDefiant. A lot of you guys obviously knew me from the COD stuff, but I did see a major uptick in subscribers here in the channel when XDefiant was first coming out. People wanted to hear about XDefiant, wanted to see the updates and news and all that stuff happening, and I'm happy I was able to provide that for you guys. But unfortunately, the game is no longer downloadable. You cannot make a new account for XDefiant or anything like that, and the Season 3 stuff will be coming out relatively soon. I should probably do a video checking that stuff out, kind of seeing what they had planned and what they were going to be doing. But ultimately, the game is going to be shutting down in about 6 months' time, and nobody else is able to join the game. It's basically the people that already have the game can play it for the next 6 months, and then it's gone forever, and that's pretty damn sad. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this video. Leave your thoughts and feedback down there in the comments. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.